Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Consolidated Communications, offering customers high-speed internet, phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services available at consolidated.com. Just ahead on Heartland Highways, we'll check out the postcard collection at Booth Library on the campus of Eastern Illinois University. Then we'll meet Tom Foreman, a guitar maker whose craftsmanship makes beautiful music.
Finally, we'll tour Clay City Pottery, where stoneware pottery has been made by the same family for more than a century. That's coming up, so stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Heartland Highways. Today we're standing in the atrium of Buzzard Hall.
Now this is the building where our TV station WEIU is located in. Now it's called Buzzard Hall. Now it wasn't named after the bird, it was actually named after Eastern's second president, Robert Guy Buzzard. Now he served the university from 1933 to 1956.
Originally, this building served as a laboratory school until the 1970s. Today, it's home to the College of Education and Professional Studies and the Department of Journalism.
Well, not far from Buzzard is Booth Library, actually just right across the street, where we discovered their postcard collection. With more than 4,000 in the collection, the postcards tell the rich history of Illinois communities. Long before email, Facebook, Twitter, and even phone calls, the postcard was an easy and inexpensive way to communicate. Postcard history started in the 1860s as a means of advertising. It would be several decades before postcards would be used for travel greetings, which is what we traditionally associate them with. By 1907, the divided back postcard made it possible for the sender to write both a message and an address on the back of the card. Prior to that, information had to be written on the front.
First 2 decades of the 20th century, those were the peak years for postcards, at least in the United States. And so this predated any other visual kind of thing coming into the home. So it really was, here's a picture all of a sudden, not just a letter, but here's a picture. Not everyone had the camera. I mean, this is, about the time that George Eastman and the Kodak people came along and started getting everyone more visually oriented, but it was a nice thing to find a visual laying around the house.
This inexpensive form of communication quickly grew in popularity, not only for senders, but also for collectors. As time and technology evolved, the appeal of the postcard started to diminish. But what about all those old postcards and collections? Those sitting in shoeboxes in dusty attics and basements? Well, here at Booth Library at Eastern Illinois University, some of those old postcards have found a permanent home.
I would say our largest collection sort of started us off in this, and it was a collection from one of Eastern's professors who has since retired, William Smith, who was in leisure studies at the time and is the author of some books on postcards. He approached the library with a collection from Coles County that he had. It was a big leap into collecting for local history.
Many of the local postcards are actually not the travel greeting style. Instead, they depict scenes from the various communities.
And there were major companies who would send photographers out, and they would take the train and get off every town and photograph the town and come back with it. The postcard was developed in many situations sort of as a way to publicize the town and a way to build the town and to build businesses there. And so if you were trying to attract people to your town, you would say, look at our school, look at our library, look at these churches that we have. That was the development of America as people were being enticed out of the cities to, go west, I suppose. And so, it was a picture into the local community.
Some cards in the collection actually contain mini photo books within the card, showing multiple images of the town. The Booth Library collection focuses primarily on Illinois communities with an emphasis on schools, libraries, and universities. From the initial collection from Bill Smith, the postcard collection grew even more with a project called Art and Architecture in Illinois Libraries. This project documents the look of Illinois libraries through photographs, drawings, and postcards.
Persons from our staff visited and collected data from over 1,000 public and academic libraries in Illinois. And as we marched through those libraries, and that took three and a half years to visit all those libraries, not continuously, but we did have to visit most of them in order to collect images of architectural detail and all the art collections that are held there. We found that several of those libraries would have, in sort of a favorite corner of the library, an early postcard of their library and just a little blurb about the beginning of the library. And this began to be part of this project, and wherever we went, we were looking for early postcard images of these libraries.
Today, postcards have become a primary collecting category for the library.
As people find out about it, they send us postcards, and we have acquired other collections. When I go to conferences, I always stop by the local vendors to make sure that we're getting anything else that might be out there in the areas that we look for. No, we don't have the major postcard collection of Chicago cards or many other towns, but especially rural Illinois and towns nearer to Eastern, then we would try to develop whatever we can find in those areas. Some of my favorites are the country schools that all the children are out for photo day, and they're all standing out in the yard, whether they're playing or whether they've all lined up in their best starched shirts and dresses. They're there to make their mark in history with the photograph. I find that touching and telling also.
To make the postcard accessible to anyone around the world, each card has been scanned, cataloged, and placed online. So how do you begin your search? Well, it's easy. First, go to eiu.edu and then click on Booth Library. Once you're there, you can search in two different ways. Using the EIU online catalog will give you some 8,000 results. To narrow that down, use the advanced search. For example, type in the word postcard and then Charleston. This will bring up several results, including an image of the card, but also other materials such as books that are related to that subject. If you want postcard images limited to just Illinois, check out digital collections off the main Booth Library page. If libraries in Illinois is your topic of interest, you can search those by public, academic, Carnegie, and interiors. If you want something more specific, say Charleston, just type that into the search box. You'll see small thumbnails of your search. Click on that and you can look at the front and the back of each postcard.
Several people have used the collection for research, and many have used it that we don't even know, because now that we have it online, they can see them. But if they want to put their hands on the actual card, of course they're going to have to come to where the collection is located in the Archives and Special Collections here at Booth Library.
In an age where communication is electronic, online, and instant, tangible records of our correspondence are harder to come by. Postcards like those at Booth Library, or maybe the ones stored in your attic, provide a unique glimpse into a slice of life from a time period since past.
Tom Tom Foreman says he isn't much of a guitar player, which is quite the surprise when you hear what he does as a side business. From his home in Stewardson, Illinois, Tom repairs broken stringed instruments and creates handmade acoustic guitars any musician would be proud to strum.
Oh, it come about probably when I was about 10 years old. My mom and dad bought me a guitar, and I played around with it and kind of set it aside and played with it some more. But I was more interested in repairing the guitars when I was in high school. I actually tried to build a guitar when I was in high school, and that kind of found out I didn't have the right tools and didn't know where to go at. And then after I got out of school, about 20 years later, I started buying equipment, and actually most of all my equipment is built. Everything in here is handmade. And then I started building, I built these two guitars back here, were my very first ones about 3 years ago. And there it just went on to collecting and repairing for people, and I like doing it. It's just something to do is what it is.
That something to do for Tom Foreman eventually evolved into Tef Custom Acoustic Guitars, a stringed instrument repair business Tom runs out of a shop on his property in Stewardson, Illinois. Tom began building custom guitars 3 years ago, and it was a natural fit with his day job.
I work at a sawmill full time, a company over by Sigel called Heartland Hardwoods. I've been with them guys for pretty much since they've opened for about 16 years now. And that's where the bulk of my wood, actually, I buy most of my wood from them. All the cherry and the walnut and the basswood. It's actually bought within a 100-mile radius. It's all raised and farmed around here. And I've been in that business for a long time. And I've always been in wood for years, ever since I was in school. I used to build houses, so it kind of leads to building guitars. It's something I've always wanted to do, and a couple years ago I built my first form, and I just built the thing. And these were displayed at Shelbyville at the Illinois State Fiddlers, and my first form is right there on the floor back there. It's sitting back there. I use it, it's my main form for my guitars. This is actually my main guitar form right here. This is my design. I built this guitar and everything. Designed the form. It's actually a combination of, they call it a parlor guitar, all the dealers that has looked at it, and it's a parlor guitar.
Tom learned to build the guitars through trial and error. He started with reading a book and has advanced to where he is now, creating beautiful acoustic guitars with handcrafted inlays. And though he enjoys building and collecting guitars, Tom says repair is his true passion.
I can build maybe 6 guitars a year, but 6 is all I've really built. But the repairs, I don't know how many repair guitars I've done. They keep coming around. I work on everything. I do a lot of top repair, neck resets, refret work, which is coming in and replacing all the frets and pulling them out. If somebody brings a guitar with a hole in the top and the top needs replaced, we can replace that or fix the hole, literally fix it. Anything that has strings on it, I can fix it. That's what I enjoy doing for people. And I don't like to charge an arm and a leg. It's not part of the deal. Some repairs can take an hour, some repairs can take 50 hours, which depends on what you have, and if it's broke, don't throw it away. Let me look at it. I can probably fix it.
It's true. Tom has seen and repaired just about any kind of problem you can imagine with stringed instruments. But what struck me as funny is that although he can fix just about any guitar, he can't really play one.
Nobody in my family actually ever played anything, but my mom and dad bought me a guitar when I was about 10 years old, and I played and played around with it, but they couldn't afford guitar lessons, and I didn't really learn how to play anything until about 6 years ago when I started playing pedal steel. And then I kind of play around on the guitar, but I don't play very well. I just know enough chords to to test the guitar, to see how it sounds and everything. But other than that, that's probably about as far as I can play.
While Tom says he won't be quitting his day job to become a musician, he will continue to repair and build acoustic guitars. In fact, he'd even build one for you.
I would build one for anyone that wanted an instrument. I would use anything they wanted to use in the instrument, as long as they were under the understanding that if you start drifting away from the kinds of woods that I use, then that really starts to cost. If you wanted a traditional rosewood guitar with a spruce top, I would do it, but I can't do it for what I would build a cherry and walnut guitar for. In building a guitar, I don't intend on really making a lot of money at it. It's the fact of doing it. I like doing it.
This final story takes us to Clay City, Indiana, where fourth-generation family members are continuing the tradition of making handmade stoneware pottery.
My great-grandfather, Burrell Griffith, started the pottery here in Indiana in 1885, fall of 1885. Originally, the first pottery was in Illinois, eastern Illinois, and he was traveling to Clay City to purchase his clay, and on one of his trips over here, the gentleman that owned a pottery behind the present site here offered to sell him the ground, the land, the pottery, I think 2 houses on the property at the time. And so he made the decision just to move his whole operation where the clay was at, so he didn't have to haul the clay by covered wagon at that time back and forth. So he started here in 1885.
4 generations of the Griffith family have been making pottery here in Clay City, Indiana. Long before Tupperware and even glass containers, a stoneware vessel was the only way to can pickles, mix up a cake, or bake a pie. Today, many of these same items are still made using designs from the 1900s. The process for making stoneware at Clay City Pottery has changed very little. It all begins, of course, with good quality clay, which is still mined locally.
We get enough out here that it lasts for 2 or 3 years at a time, because, like I say, my dad had this way of being able to tell if clay was good or not. He would taste the clay, and he could tell whether it was good clay or not. And it was kind of funny because we had a rather large pottery out of Kentucky come up, and they took their clay samples and sent them away and had them analyzed and everything. And my dad went with them and tasted it and told them, this vein's good, this vein's not. And they come back with their tests. He was exactly right. And unfortunately, none of us got that ability from him because we haven't been able to do that. We bought some clay we thought was very good clay, and what will happen if it's not the right texture and everything, we'll notice it in our bowls. We'll start having pinholes and things, and you start checking, seeing what's wrong here, and you've just gotten some bad clay. So
the raw clay is processed on site, taking it from hard chunks into a smooth, workable material for the potter. Back in Burrell Griffith's day, every item was hand-thrown on a potter's wheel, but slight modernization in the early 1900s made the process faster, but still hands-on. A process called jiggering is used in the making of bowls, casseroles, and pie plates, where the clay is pressed into a mold and shaped by hand. Another method, called slip casting, uses liquid clay, or slip, which is injected into a mold and creates items like pitchers, salt and pepper shakers, and mugs. While modernization such as machine stamping would increase pottery production, the character and look that is achieved by the work of human hands would be lost.
our pottery is heavy. I mean, a person will pick up a bowl and they'll say, oh my, this bowl is heavy. But that is the way it's made, it's the way it's always been made. You take a piece that's ram pressed, usually will be a lot lighter and probably perfectly round, where our piece might not be perfectly round because it's being made by hand, and not always will it come out perfectly round. You know, ours will have, we'll say it's the character marks on it, and might not be quite as perfect as a piece made like out of even porcelain or china. And we have sometimes trouble with people understanding that. We tell them this is stoneware and it's not going to be perfect, and the little character marks on it makes it what it is.
Some items like mixing bowls and casseroles have always been made. Cobalt blue is still their best-selling color. But as decorating tastes have changed, so has the pottery.
We noticed the younger generation was going through and they would look at the colors and look at it, but it really wasn't catching their eye like it had people before. So we come up with 2 new colors, one being purple and one being robin egg blue. And we noticed our sales last year really boosted by younger generation because they were into those colors. Now I don't see that being a color that 50 years from now somebody would look at that and say that's a Clay City Pottery bowl. They'll look at our mustard, our cobalt, our white and say that's Clay City Pottery bowl. So we're finding to stay and be competitive, we're having to do things that we've never had to do before.
Regardless of color, an item made here is always marked on the bottom, or in the case of bowls, the rim is left unglazed. Because they look old, sometimes they've been mistaken for antiques.
We have marked, some old pieces are marked Griffith pottery, which is what my great-grandfather's name was, and he called the pottery Griffith pottery until, I believe, they changed the name in 1910 to Clay City Pottery. So anything like that we know is definitely old. There's certain colors. There was a brown color that they used to do years ago that we cannot get the ingredients for anyway, because all of our glazes, our glaze recipes, it was made by my grandfather and great-grandfather, and so there's certain ingredients that we can't purchase anymore. And so we know if it's a color like that, we know it's old. But then we've got some colors that we just started doing maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and if they have a piece like that, we know definitely it's, and we've tried to mark Clay City Pottery on as many pieces as we can, and we know if it's marked that way since we started doing it, that it's not an old piece either.
One of the nice things about these items is they have the look of an antique, but the functionality and the price of something new.
One of my husband's selling points is he always tells people, if you've got the old, put it up, don't use it. It's an antique, it's worth something. Set it up and buy a new one, and if you break it, it's not so hard to come back and replace it, or you don't feel so bad if you break a piece.
There's not too many items one can purchase today that are virtually the same thing your grandmother may have bought. While other potteries around the country have long since closed, Clay City is one of the few to have remained in business and in the same family. While modernization has crept into the business, it's been slow. For example, modern kilns using natural gas are used today, but on occasion the walk-in 1927 brick kiln is used for firing larger items like bird bass. Even saving part of an original log cabin was important enough that the new building was simply built up around it. Because they've been in business for so long, Clay City Pottery is found everywhere. Today, their products are sold in retail stores, at festivals and craft shows, on the internet, and at their retail store located at the Pottery in Clay City. Today, Clay City Pottery is still a family operation that employs the same traditions and values first started by Burl Griffith in 1885. In an age of mass-produced cookie-cutter items, traditional craftsmanship is still alive and appreciated by the many people who collect and use Clay City Pottery. That's all the time we have for you this week from Buzzard Hall. Thanks for joining us.
If you want more information about any of the stories in our show or to see our online episodes, make sure to check out our website.
We'll see y'all next time. Heartland Highways is made possible in part by Consolidated Communications, offering customers high-speed internet, phone service, and digital TV service packages that include high-definition channels, DVR, and hundreds of sports, movies, and music channels. More information on these services available at consolidated.com.
Labs. Labs. Like, look at me! I'm huge! Attack of the Giant TV Woman!
Any musician would be proud to strum.
Indiana. Indiana.
At EIU.
I decided I needed to add a few more